Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Diaries of a 20-something. I'm Paige Marquez, your host, and if you're a girl in your 20s and you've been thinking about getting a little furry friend, this episode is for you. Having a dog is one of the best things in the world, but not only that, it's also a massive responsibility, and I feel like people never understand or able to grasp the responsibility that comes with having a dog. It's not just about cute little puppy cuddles and aesthetic dog walks. It's unexpected costs, lifestyle adjustments, and honestly just crazy little scenarios that you end up being in because of it. This is my dog Jazzy, also known as Miss J, and about a dozen other titles. She is 10 years old and she's almost 11. When I got her, she was 3 months old and I was 12, and ever since then she's always just been like my dog. I remember when we first got her, we were crate training her and she had to sleep in the cage at night and she would always cry all night. I felt so bad. So every night I would wait for my dad to fall asleep and I'd like go downstairs and bring the cage into my bed and stick my hand in it all night, like literally to the point where my hand would be swollen the next day. And that was just like an everyday occurrence. And I feel like that's when we got the bond that we have now. And now, a decade later, she's still my best friend. So today we're getting into the highs, lows, and everything in between that comes with dog ownership in your 20s. So let's get into it. People obviously get dogs for all types of reasons: emotional support, disabilities, or just to get one because they feel like it. For me, it was a bit of a random decision. I remember specifically, actually, my sister wanted a dog way more than I did. I actually wanted a cat. We had a cat named Lexi that went missing, and I was like literally so upset about it. All I wanted was another cat. And then we landed upon the dog decision. So I actually got her on Craigslist, funny enough. She was $50 and I got her from this little low income area of Miami, Florida called Hialeah, if you're familiar with it. I specifically remember the house being like a very sketchy situation. It was definitely a situation of like backyard breeding, which if you don't know what that is, it's when people like breed dogs all the time just to sell puppies. And it's kind of like unethical and a little bit dangerous from a health perspective. But from the moment that Jazzy, stop doing that. But from the moment that we got her, I just knew that she was mine. She's just my bestie. But before you run out and adopt a dog, I think that there's three main things that come with dog ownership that changes, and that is the financial cost, the strain or unexpected cost, the lifestyle adjustments, and the time commitment. Those three things are so big and almost a little bit shocking to somebody who's not used to having something else to take care of. I feel like people don't understand, and this is why a lot of dogs end up getting like returned to shelters or dropped off like in the middle of nowhere. Like dogs are like not just a 6-month commitment. They are years. They are a quarter of a lifetime of commitment if you really think about it. If you're thinking about getting a dog, I would definitely ask yourself these three questions. Can I afford this? Am I ready for the responsibility? And am I prepared for my time to no longer be my own? Because that's really what happens. Like your time is now for someone else. Some people wouldn't call them a someone, but I would. But if the answer to all those questions is yes, let's go over the pros and cons. So obviously, first pro is unconditional love. There is nothing like the unconditional love between a dog and their person. It is so interesting and kind of hard to wrap your head around the fact that she will love you or your dog will love you no matter what you do. And I hear this all the time, like in the dog ownership community and whatever, about how dogs are only a portion of our lives, but we are their entire life. And I think that really puts it into perspective, like for us to understand how much we mean to them. Like we are their everything. Another thing is just the daily joy that comes with it. Jazzy does this little thing every single day, and it's literally my favorite thing ever. She's always up before me, which like is fine because she's not like an annoying dog that like is like begging to go outside and like being annoying and whatever. Like she will sit in bed with me till 11 o'clock. Sometimes she doesn't even want to get out of bed when I get up early, but I sleep on my side, and every single morning to wake me up, she like comes up behind me and like nuzzles her little snout into my neck, and it always like wakes me up so softly, and it's like perfect. And she's like wagging her tail. She's so excited, and like that is every single day. Another thing is obviously mental health benefits. Like people get emotional support dogs or therapy dogs and everything like that. She is technically an emotional support dog, but I only did that to make finding an apartment easier. But she does really impact my mental health in a positive way. Like, she is the most consistent thing I've had in my life since I had her, and she's a daily mood upper for sure, except when we have bad behavior days, which I will get into. But most days, like, it's just really nice to come home to her and really nice to have her in my life because she just brings an extra layer of happiness to it. It's really helpful on days when you're sad and you just want to bed rot, because having a dog, you can't bed rot. You have to let them out, you have to take them on walks, you have to keep them active, and keeping active, I would say, is the fourth pro of having a dog. I am a pretty active person. I do run on a regular basis, not as regular anymore since it's been so cold here, but when I first moved here, when it was way nicer outside, I would run nearly every single day, and I would always bring her. I don't like to bring my phone when I run with me because I don't like carrying it around. Like, I honestly run like with nothing on me, so it's like easy. But with her, it definitely adds like an extra layer of safety to the running because I don't have to worry about someone coming and attacking me. Like, obviously somebody could, but she's not like a big dog, obviously. But she does have a very fierce bark that does deter people away for sure. Now to get into the cons, I would say the main con is unexpected cost. And any dog owner that's watching this will understand when I say vet bills are insane, like literally insane. The amount of times that I have taken her to the vet in like a panic because I swear that she was dying, and like $600, $700 later, it's like, oh, she's fine. And I'm like, what? You have something to say? Miss J doesn't like the vet. Now that I said it, she's like, hold up. No, you're not going. Don't worry. But even like the yearly appointments are expensive. They're still going to run you a couple $100s. But as she's gotten older, I want to say when she was about 7, I think, I got pet insurance for her. That's only covers sickness and injury. Because I think like as they get older, obviously the risks are much higher of something happening to them. I've been really lucky. She's 10 years old and she's never had any major health issue, which is just fantastic. But definitely been times where like I thought that she did. Like, she's very prone to getting like fatty tumors, which like aren't cancerous, but like every single time she gets one, I do take her to the vet because it's better to be safe than sorry. And I'd rather spend $400 getting something biopsied and making sure it's all good than not getting it checked and then have her be like dying. Pet insurance, it's like $40 a month. And basically if any sickness, like cancer, injury, like, you know, like she breaks a leg somehow, like they'll cover 80% of the cost, like no problem. Second con, I would say, but this could also be a pro, is a lifestyle adjustment. It's definitely a lot different when you have another being that depends on you for sure. You can't just pick up anything and go anymore. I really felt this when I first moved to Hoboken because my first month and a half living here or so, I didn't have her. She was still in Florida. And it was so different for me because she was in college with me. It was so different to not have anything tying me home. And I was literally never home the first like month and a half I lived here. I was always out. I'd be gone like 12 hours a day because I could. And it was so nice and so freeing. So once I got her, it was like a crazy shock to me. I was like, wait, like this is so different. Like having a dog, like living here and having a dog is so different than living here without a dog. And obviously I wouldn't trade her for the world, but it is something to think about. Like, are you ready to uproot your life and like have something that you're really responsible for waiting for you all the time? Another thing kind of backpacking off of leaving them alone is the guilt and anxiety. Miss J has separation anxiety. So whenever I leave her, especially if it's for a more extended period, meaning like more than like 3 hours, she kind of goes a little stir crazy and she gets destructive. This could mean going through my laundry or going through the trash. It's always one of those two things. If it's a really bad behavior day, we'll have two. She knows she's not supposed to do it, but she just can't help herself. You know, as soon as I open the door to come home, she's like, looks guilty. And I'm like, you know, you're not supposed to do this, you know? But yeah, like going off of that, like if I know I'm going to be at work all day, I'm not going to do anything at night because I'm not going to leave her home alone all day and all night. That's not fair to her. It's not being a responsible dog owner, I would say. There's nothing worse than when I see like a dog owner that's like their dog is always just like stuck in the apartment alone. Like that's not fair. And like that's another thing, like city living and like having a dog. Like I honestly think that like small dogs are your best bet for city living. I mean, obviously like if you're a very active person and like you go on like runs daily and like you're home a lot more, I think you could like swing a big dog and be fine. Like there's a couple people in my building that have a big dog. Like pretty much everybody here in my building has a dog, which is interesting. But yeah, it's just a lot of like guilt and anxiety leaving them home alone. And like really weirdly, I've been having this fear recently that like my apartment is just gonna like naturally combust while I'm not home and she's there. Like I don't know where that fear is coming from. I've never had anything like catch on fire like that, but like I don't know. It's just been kind of like haunting me recently. The thing that you definitely need to have down, and having a dog may help you get down really well, is time management skills. Routines are so key when you have a dog. They thrive off routine. And honestly, like if you're a person that thrives off routine, I know I do, it works out pretty well because it's not that big of an adjustment. But like it's literally is like having every single day of your life like very planned out. Having a dog almost like forces you into structure, which is a good thing, especially when we're in our 20s and we're constantly like feeling like everything is crumbling around us and like everything's falling apart and everything's all over the place. Like a dog does help bring some stability to it for sure. But, you know, your social life will shift, obviously, depending on where you live. I've mentioned in a couple episodes that Hoboken is very dog friendly. So for here, there is like kind of a social network for dog parents. I wish I could be a part of it, but Miss J isn't dog friendly. So unfortunately, I can't do any like puppy play dates at the park and whatever. But I do know one girl and she has a dog here, and she's actually like, she has like a friend group for her dog. And they like go to the park at the same time and like whatever. And like, I think that's a great thing. So it can add something to your social life as well as take away a part, because obviously you can't be going out with your friends as much and like just not thinking about, you can't just like drop everything and do something. Obviously, if you work remotely, having a dog is 1,000 times easier. If you are hybrid, also a little bit easier. But if you're on sites 5 days a week, that could be tricky. And especially like if you have a puppy like Miss J, you know, she's 10 years old. She has had so many different routines throughout her life, whether it was when I was in college or like now or like when I was a kid. So like she's very adaptable, I would say, but she has gotten used to my schedule here. It took her about a month or two, I want to say, before she was actually comfortable here. Once she was, everything got a lot easier. You know, like now that she knows my schedule, she's like not as freaked out when I leave anymore. When she first got here, she was so freaked out when I would leave because she didn't know where she was. She wasn't comfortable with the environment. It was cold outside. You know, it's like she's a big culture shock for her. But of course, having a dog does come with very chaotic moments. And I would say the 3 most chaotic moments I've had with Miss J, first one takes the cake every single time. It was a couple years ago when I was in college. I was driving back home. It's about a 4-hour drive. There's this one part of the Florida Turnpike where there is like no exits for like 30 miles, 30, 40 miles, because there's like nothing there. And that's the part of the highway we were at. And there was a massive accident that shut down both sides of the turnpike. And obviously nobody could get off. So we were just like all sitting there, like sitting ducks for like hours, right? It got to the point where everybody was just like parking their car and like turning it off like in the middle of the traveling lanes because like we really weren't moving anytime soon. And so when everybody was doing that, I was like, okay, I may as well like let her outside to go to the bathroom. Press the unlock button on my door. I walk around to the other side of the car, and of course, she's all hyped up to go outside. She stands up on the door and locks it. Locks me out of the car while it's running with my phone, my keys, everything in it. I had nothing on me. And I was like, okay, great. I'm like sitting at the side of the door trying to get her to like jump on the thing again to like unlock it. Wasn't working. I'm like asking everybody around me. I'm like, do you have any solution for me? I remember like the guy behind me, he was in a semi truck. He was like, I have a hanger. We can try to like do it. But it was like a newer car. It was a Jeep. So obviously newer cars like are way more safe against like anti-theft. So it didn't work. I had one guy like offering to bash the window in. I was like, no, let's not do that. Like, let's please not do that. And then this one lady, she had a Dodge, which if you didn't know, Dodge and Jeep are owned by the same company. She was like, you can actually have them unlock it remotely if you have this like subscription or whatever. I didn't have the subscription. I'm on the phone with my dad on someone else's phone. And I'm like telling him how to set it up. Like, I'm like, please, because my big worry throughout this whole thing was if traffic starts moving again, what am I going to do? Like she's sitting in the car listening to old rock music, just vibing with the AC. I'm standing in the heat for like 45 minutes trying to figure this out, panicking. But Jeep was actually able to remotely unlock my car, which was fantastic. fantastic. And literally 10 minutes later, the traffic started moving, and I was like, thank God. Like, that was honestly like one of the scariest moments of my life as a dog owner. I still can't believe that you did that. That was crazy. Another kind of another crazy unexpected moment that has happened to me twice now is when Miss J decided to liquid all over my bed in the middle of the night. She has done this twice, both times when I was hungover. First time was when my sister was in town for college, and it was Halloween weekend, so obviously a crazy weekend. Second time it happened was actually kind of recently, the day after my birthday. That was a lot of fun. So I woke up after my birthday, first day of being 23. I'm like, great, like this is a great start, you know, like it's just really unpleasant to wake up and roll over into a pile of shit. But that's dog ownership, and those are the things you have to be prepared for. I mean, it's literally happened to me twice. Both times were extremely unpleasant. I want to say the second time was worse. So yeah, honestly, it's just like a really unfortunate experience every time it happens, and I really hope that I never have to deal with it again. Another thing Miss J has a very big habit of doing is stealing things off plates, and I've noticed this more recently. And if I like leave a plate in a room and leave the room, she's not going to eat anything off of it. But if I'm like mid eating, she will try to snag a bite. And I don't really know where that's coming from and where she's learning this behavior. The first time she ever did it was actually at dinner with my sister and my dad, like in Gainesville, my college town. We got like seafood or something, and we got a plate of salmon, and she snagged a piece off the plate. And ever since then, she's been doing that. And I don't really know where it's coming from, but those are just some like random moments, random memorable moments that you get with dogs. They're not all the same. Like they all have their little habits and their little like weird things that they do that makes them unique. But all in all, like having a dog teaches you patience and responsibility and how to live in the moment. They do nothing but live in the moment. Isn't that right, Miss J? She's over the spotlight. But all dogs do is live in the moment. And I think it's actually a beautiful thing because it really teaches you to be in the moment. You know, they're not worried about tomorrow or yesterday. They're just worried about right now. And I think that that's something that we all need to do better at doing. I would say if you are on the cusp of getting a dog, but don't really know where to start, I would say research different dog breeds because different dog breeds are different. I'm always going to be a mutt girl, and I know that. Miss J is a mutt. I've gotten her DNA tested a couple times, and they've all been different results. So I ended up getting her tested at the vet, actually, and she is mostly Papillon, which makes a lot of sense. She's Papillon, Border Collie, and Jack Russell. Her personality definitely reflects that. High energy, very annoying, very prissy. That's pretty much who she is to her core. So yeah, research dog breeds, research lifespans, research what the breeds are prone to more often than not, because I know that some dogs, like I'm pretty sure, yeah, like German Shepherds, they're like prone to hip issues, and that can be very expensive later on. And you know, purebreds in general tend to be prone to more health issues than a mutt. It's also always good to have like a little emergency fund, like just in case things go south. Whether you have pet insurance or not, you never know how much things are going to cost, especially if it's an emergency, because if it's an emergency, you're probably going to end up having to go to the emergency vet, which is about triple what the normal vet would cost you. So it's good to have like a little backup kind of account for something like this. It's also really important to prioritize training early. I see it all the time when people get puppies, especially like in like college and in their 20s, they'll like get a dog and like they just don't train it like they should. I think that prioritizing training early like makes all the difference in how well your dog will behave later on. Miss J is not the best behaved dog, but it stems more from anxiety rather than lack of training. She just is a really anxious being, and that often comes out into barking and destructive behaviors like I mentioned earlier. Having a dog is life-changing, and it's also a lot of responsibility, but I think that it's definitely worth it. It teaches us a lot in our 20s, and I think it's a great way to like practice being a parent before you actually become a parent. I know that having a dog is not the same as having a kid, but I think it's a good stepping stone to get there. They bring us so much love and so much joy, but also a lot of challenges and unexpected moments. It can be hard to communicate with them. I mean, Miss J definitely, it's interesting in the sense that your dog kind of molds to you at a certain point, and like obviously we can't communicate verbally that well, but we communicate in our own way. Like she understands an actual decent amount of words, and I understand her body language pretty well. Like she's trained me and I've trained her in a sense. Whether you're thinking about getting a dog or you already have one of your own and you're thinking about getting a second one, I really hope this episode was able to provide some insight for you on what it's actually like and like gives you some things to think about. How do you feel? Come here. This was Diaries of a 20-something, episode 34, which is crazy. I have a ton of really fun episode ideas coming up pretty soon. My sister's coming to town, so we're going to do another episode together. I've only ever done one episode with my sister. We've tried to do a couple more here and there, but it just never worked out. So definitely stay tuned for that and everything else. Like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you guys all next Friday. Mwah. Blow a kiss.